G'day, punters. Welcome to Victims of the Punt. Looking at a good track potentially. They tell me in Sydney at Rosehill for the Rosehill Gold Cup. Another race, but mainly the Golden Eagle, which, believe it or not, punters, is worth $10 million. Staggering behaviour. Back to defend his ground, very articulate and dominant last week. Pistol Pete, welcome, Hutcho. How are you?
Yeah, very good. I can't wait to talk about a European horse coming out here to win millions of dollars of cash, just for them to send it back to Europe and win more prestigious races that people actually care about.
Oh, the rich are getting richer, and that's all that matters. Mark Rhoden, speaking of the rich getting richer, how are you?
Very well indeed, and especially casting our mind back to Saturday, in a very good frame of mind after promise of success, won the invitation. But I found it as best value, and back that you actually put it in as your top pick in that race.
Yeah, I liked it. Certainly didn't. I don't think I would have had near as much as almost anything on compared to you, but it's good to get one away on the Victim show. Been a very big week in the mailbag. We've all done a bit of modelling. Speaking of modelling, though, we've got a beautiful little filly headwater heads to Gavin Bedgegood. That's the only thing we've got happening at Mailbag Bloodstock this week. We tried our little harder out to try and find another horse on the digital sale on Wednesday, but they all just went too much. Mark, this show is powered by honeyform.com.au, mailbagbloodstock.com.au, but especially readybet.com.au, Australian owned, operated bookmaker, app, website, the works. An outstanding promo this week, which we can't talk about. If you sign up and log in, you'll see all about it. What's happening outside of that at readybet.com.au this week, big fella?
Yeah, all about promos. Got one on the NBA we just launched, and the racing one on the two big meetings. On Saturday, you just mentioned, I can't give any more details than that, unfortunately, due to the legislation in various states. But if you sign up, log in, and head to the promotions page, you can find out all about them. I'm sure you'll love them. And as always, Dicko,
gamble responsibly. 1-800-858-858. Boys, Rosehill, Rail True, talk to me about the weather first, Mark, and then give me a pattern prediction. And Peter, Hutcho, please follow that with your own track prediction, because you're a data modeler. You're a numbers man. You're my man.
The weather is good. It was raining a bit today, but Friday, Saturday, both mid-20s and clear. So if it doesn't get to good 4, it'll get very close, in my opinion. As to a pattern, the last few true rails with a bit of juice in the track have played offence, especially in the straights. Hard to lead at the last meeting on the 24th of September. No leaders at all won, in fact, and offence in the straight. However, there have been times when I don't think it'll get this hard, but on hard tracks on a true rail at Rosehill, it'll be pretty dynamite inside. But it has certainly the last 3 or 4 meetings in the true, at least, not been the case that the rail's been hot. In fact, you'd wanted to get off the straight. So I'm going in, I'm assuming fairish to start.
Peter, what's the puntingform.com.au data say to you?
Yeah, look, fair is the initial game plan, but we're seeing a lot more of some really sizable fields early, especially. So I think if there's any pattern that emerges over those first couple of races, you really have to probably take that into account a bit more so, just given the size of some of these monster fields. So, look, be aware but not alarmed.
Yeah, I think when we're going to get to the last race we're going to talk about, which is we're going to do race 6, 7, and 8, the Screaming Eagle. That race is chock-a-block full of pony, and that's likely going to be a different pattern to what you're seeing for the first bit of the meeting, just because the tempo is going to be so massive in that race. We'll start with race 6, the Rosehill Gold Cup, 2,000 metres. The first replay we're going to look at is quality.
Hang on, the market first.
Oh, yeah, sorry. The market powered by readybet.com.au. Are you reading or am I reading, great man?
I'm happy to read it. Number 1, Stockman 750. 2, Polly Gray 13. 3, Yonkers 13. Down to 7, Bois d'Argent 6. 8, Quality Time 390. 10, Star of India 950. 12, Bears a Shocker 15. 15, Honey Creeper. Rob Scurry still having nightmares about Honey Creeper, $7.50, and longer the rest.
Are you cuddling any? Are you taking on any there?
Cuddling Bois d'Argent and Star of India, the 2 Europeans, or 2 of the Europeans in the race. Polly Gray needs it wetter than this, so we're pushing her. And Quality Time, I think, is a very good chance in this, but he's too short a price in a competitive race for me, so we're pretty close to top of the ground at 390 there.
Peter, before we start, are you happy with that pronunciation of the 7?
Yes, I am. And I believe the English translation was its former name overseas in Silverwood.
Silverwood.
That's wood as in forest, not as in the actual, substance.
So the current favourite, the local, I don't know if he always was a local, but we sort of talk about imports. If they come for 1 or 2 runs, then they're an import. And after that, they're a local. We're going to look at quality time as he brains them 2 back.
Yes, he did. He had a lovely run. This was a 78, I think. He had a lovely run, but he really did stamp himself as a bit better than this sort of restricted grade this day. He raced on the pace, which is a great racing style to have. And yes, by the 250, he's put a couple of lengths on him, and that is the last they saw of him. Absolutely powered away to win in great style at this track, over 1900, virtually this distance as well. And since he has been up to Port Macquarie and won, got the job done against pretty ordinary opposition, but lovely little tick over for run. He runs in this, and he's got a big dance entry after winning at Port Macquarie. I assume they back up on Tuesday.
Wow. Replay number 2 is Honey Creeper putting the writing on the wall. Did Rob back this and it just missed, boys?
Did he? What? There it is in the blue jacket of Godolphin, strung up in a little bit of traffic, held up. Has to wait for the winner, hope in your heart to go. Gets to the outside. Look, she's looking, this was over a mile. She's looking for this sort of trip. She did take a little bit of time to wind up and couldn't quite overhaul Hope in Your Heart. So arguably a good thing, Pete. Rob certainly thought so. I personally thought the winner was easy enough to find at $11.
Speaking of Rob, you wouldn't believe this, Mark. Like, I reckon he might have the best left foot of anyone over 35 that didn't play professional AFL.
I saw that footage, just a snippet of footage, and pretty deadly accurate, yes.
Unbelievable. He was on Gosh's paddock just kicking him wherever he wanted on Tuesday, found his way to Warwick Farm on Wednesday, and just won again. Just another ton.
It was pretty handy with the Dukes as well, I must say. I was the one there playing fullback and then just firing off a few barrels towards him, and he was still taking him well above his head. So for someone who probably hasn't kicked a footy in 5 years, he's pretty sharp.
Yeah, there's a bit of that going on there, actually, on Tuesday. Peter, how do you see this race?
Speed map, I think that's probably the starting place. I think they find their positions relatively easily. Quality time, I think, will probably lead early. Polly Gray's probably going to roll forward. Horses like Kukaracha, Kiss the Bride, they'll be thereabouts. But I think Star of India, the international, he's been ridden with intent in most of his starts so far. I think Brenton Avdallah for the Neesham camp, they don't really mind having them on pace. So I think that horse will come across. What the Waller camp does with Lord Ardmore, I think Tim Clark as a booking is enough intent there to suggest from the wide gate they'll try and roll forward with that as well. And one of the other internationals, Afa Baskin, is that where we're going with that? That's typically settled on pace as well. So that will probably try and follow Star of India across and try and settle prominently. So I think that's your pace up front. And then, look, the rest of them will just find their positions back in the field. So look, I'd be expecting a little bit of tempo there early, but once they settle into rhythm, I think it will just be probably slackening back to even at best.
Mark, what about Stockman?
Is he going to back up in the Melbourne Cup on Tuesday?
I heard a rumour he might be.
Yeah, which leads me to think that winning this isn't absolutely A1 priority for him. And improving track. Look, he's not legless on dry by any stretch, but to have an edge on him, you'd like to see him on wetter than this. And I suspect they're tuning up for Tuesday.
Yeah, you're certainly risking at $7, that's for sure.
Any that you like a lot here, Mark?
I don't know if I can like it a lot, but I've ended up with the Visitor Bois d'Argent on top. Just on the...
It's staggering how you two have figured out that's called white. Like, if I was just doing it by myself, I would have called it Boys d'Argent.
Yes. I did French to year 12, so if I couldn't work that out, it'd be a complete waste of time and money. Anyway.
I did a little bit of French once when I went to uni, but it's another story.
Just on the time form equivalent figures I've looked at, he's probably the best horse in the race. I don't know if he's the best 2,000 metre horse in the race, and certainly the best 2,000 metres first up horse in the race. But he's drawn wide, yes, but I think he'll just sort of sneak off midfield, get in somewhere. If he can run the trip, I think he'll be hard to beat. And I just thought at the price, it was probably the way to go. Quality time, just so solid this time in 3 very good runs in a row, is definitely the one to beat. I couldn't get anything under 3-1 in this race. So, look, Star of India, the other visitor, I think his overs at double figure odds.
Okay.
It will run 2,000, in my opinion. And look, as I said, on figures, the other one's just a bit ahead of him, but Star of India might be the one that is better suited at 2,000. And I think on the map that Pete sort of touched on, I think he's going to get a really nice run back of the speed. So they were the 3 I was sort of looking at. Stockman, a little bit around for the reason mentioned. Honey Creeper has to go in. I think, look, she may well have it just be ready to go to another level and right down there on the limit weight.
In the right camp to just continue to maintain momentum.
100% right. She's right in the race, but just in this big, deep field, 650 to 750 sort of range is about right, in my opinion, but I certainly wouldn't be talking you out of her if you were chasing your money on her, a la Rob.
Right, we'll roll through our top 5s now just to clarify our positions on this race. Pistols with Star of India for Annabelle and Quality Time, Honey Creeper, Place the Argent, and Kiss the Bride. And Mark is I'm with Quality Time on Pop. I think he just makes his own luck, and there's the only thing I like what I know.
Yeah.
Scared shitless of the other thing. I think Stockman's flying. I think Honey Creeper's flying, and I think Annabelle's doing a phenomenal job with these imports. Just as good as anyone in the game at it. And then Mark's bringing us home here. Boys D'Argent into Quality Time from Star of India, Honey Creeper, and Lord Ardmore. Boys, let's look at race 7, the Nature Strip Stakes with a bunch of horses he's bashed over the last 3 or 4 years in it. Take us through the market, please, Mark Rhoden, readybet.com.
Number 1.
Responsibly, 1-800-858-858.
Number 1, Nature Strip's great rival, Eduardo, 750. 2, Private Eye, we're a bit shorter at 460, shorter than the rest of the market. 3, Marzu, 420. 4, Master Crusader, 950. 5, Colding, 91. Yeah, Shelby, good on you. Number 7, Lost and Running, 270. I think we're pretty close to the top of the ground there. 8, Commentary, 31. Yeah, we're pretty long the others. We own a smart one, number 11 at 17.
So looking to cuddle Private Eye and take on Lost and Running?
More or less. Just a little bit conservative with Master Crusader as well. I was tipping him up as the value pick in the Everest, and he was disappointing. He really didn't do anything, even though it was run to suit.
Here we go, looking at the Everest. I think if you like him in the Everest, you'd be mad to drop off.
Well, at double figure odds. And also, just going through it again today, he was 4th up in the Everest last time. He's 3rd up this year. He's actually 4th up today, and he's peaked 4th up twice before in his career. So he could jump out of the ground and be hard to beat in this, but I mean, others were better than him in the Everest. There's no doubt about that.
What do you make of him, Pistol? Pike off, Berry on. Could be one of the biggest switches in Sydney right now.
Well, yeah, exactly right. That was one of the other changes between last preparation and this prep, is that Tommy Berry was riding him in the Everest on that occasion when he peaked on the day. So, look, sometimes it's just a case of getting the best out of these horses. And I thought the replay with Pike on board was interesting. He almost didn't take him out to the widest lanes there in the straight, and then only really just brushed home on him late there. So I wouldn't be surprised if he does improve with the jockey change.
Yeah. The next replay we're looking at is the Premier Stakes, guys.
Yeah, this is the race the favourite comes to. Look, they've run this race. I think it's 3 times they've run this race as a sort of extra Everest. And it's been run, the Everest has been the form each year in each running of it. This year, the favourite Lost and Running did not run in the Epsom. He did beat things like Marzu, who went on to run in the Epsom, and Master Crusader.
Everest.
What did I say?
Epsom.
Thank you. The Everest.
Just trying to stick it up. Tradition.
Yes. He did beat some horses that went on to run well in the Everest, but I would argue that Marzu ran better in the Everest than it did that day in the Premier Stakes. Look, he's right in the race. He's a very good sprinter. He's Nature Strip aside, he's in that sort of B-grade echelon, which is really A-grade outside of Nature Strip group. He's right in the race, but I don't look taking 250, 260. You're saying he is half a class above these, and he's not, in my opinion.
Yeah, and it's tricky as well, isn't it? Because he was scratched, obviously, from the Everest with lameness issues. And obviously, Eduardo pulled up, 1 out of 5 lame, according to the stewards after the race, and he failed. So it does have a little bit of I'm surprised there's such a price differential between the two, given they both had issues there.
Peter, take us through your top 5 then and elaborate on that.
Well, I'm going to stick with Eduardo just purely based on the map here. And I think Marzu is the other horse that does map to improve. The horse got back there, and looked a little bit plain there in the straight until the last 200 when Marzu really knuckled down. Lost in running. I'm happy to take on at the short price, but I think
those prices are incorrect, by the way.
You can buy Brutality at 480.
I didn't mind the run of Brutality. I thought there was a little bit of something there, but I don't think this is going to be his race as such. But I thought if Eduardo is at his best, and look, I don't think Joe Pride's sending him around if he is having any issues or ill effects after the Everest. He gets a chance to dictate this race. I don't think anyone else is going to be taking him on early. I think Pike on We Own a smart one, although it's a go forward horse. He's not the most aggressive jock, so Nash should be able to cross from the wide gate, control the race. And if Eduardo's at his best, he won the race last year. He's clearly got the best figures out of this bunch. So
vaccines and leading on speed. Pike hates them both.
Yes.
Mark, take us through your top 5.
Yours are there first.
Yeah, Mark's
right, back to me. Yeah, I've clearly, my hand is up for this. I've clearly forgotten to update the prices on the top 5 slides for us, unfortunately. Leaning to Private Eye, even though the map isn't great, I think he's flying. He's all but won the Everest. He was dynamic down the straight.
Enormous down the straight.
Knew he was going to be that day. Did the market know?
One of the great steamers in recent memory, that was.
And he's come out and been beaten on lip in the Everest. He is flying. He's drawn barrier 12 here, which is an issue, but of the probably 3 or 4 on the market, I thought he was the most backable. I'm not desperate to bet in this race, but he was the most backable. Lost and running. He's favourite for a reason. I just think he's a shade short. Marzu's going to get a softer run than Private Eye. He's right in the race, but I think his price is close enough as well. Eduardo, 1 out of 5 lameness. What does that mean? He went hard in front, but that in the past has kind of been his go. The difference might be here out to 30. He won this race last year, right? And he dominated it from the front. He is a year older. He's coming off probably the worst run of his life, I would suggest, in the Everest. He hasn't been beaten that far in a long, long time, if ever. Could be gone, but then again, if you get out and just do his favourite thing, dominating a field without nature strip in it, and he's proven before he can run 1,300. Masked Crusader, good win, could run nowhere, but have to throw him in at double figure odds.
Yeah, like I'm with Eduardo for all the reasons you guys have spoken about. He was not going to be annoyed and diggerized, and sort of sacrificed by nature strip like James McDonald just took on Nash that day, and they just chewed each other up. I blame J-Mac more than Nash, but I full credit to Nash at the same time. I think Smoke and Joe won't back this thing up unless it's right, but it would be a sort of D-Day for the horse and the ownership group, no doubt. I think Marzu's flying and is the actual genuine horse with upside here and will go really good in the Everest next year. Private Eye would have had on top, but the barrier draw scares me a lot, and especially on a Sydney track. I just want to see how they sort of settle. Lost and Running is the bomb-proof map horse, I think, and I think 1,300 metres is ideal for Masked Crusader, who loses Pike, which is 4 or 5 lengths, and gets buried. The next race, guys, the time-honoured Golden Eagle, 1,500 metres, $10 million race. Markets part 1 and 2, Mark Rhoden.
24 in it. We had to split it in half here.
Talk to me, baby.
Overpass, number 1 at 18, 3 in the Congo 11, 4 Valana 18, 5 I Wish I Win 10, 6 Mr. Mozart 19. Click down to number 12. Possibly the best horse in the country now has arrived. Number 12 Light Infantry at $3.
Wrong silks, can't they?
Right. Over to the second page, 13 Well Wall, who managed to get into the field by being extended by 2 runners and having his handicap rating boosted by 3 points.
Speaking of, allegedly, is it not an issue that this horse was backed 100 to 1 into sort of 50s and 40s at some joints when it wasn't going to get a run?
Yeah.
Is that weird?
You can't get on anyway. There's no MBLs for futures markets.
Well, someone did. Full credit to him.
Yeah, he's $19 now.
He was 100 to 1.
Yeah, I know. Yes, he was. Probably.
And wasn't going to get a run.
Yes. I don't think they've run a 20-horse field at Rosehill since the 1940s or something. But
I hope it wins and pisses in. That's the narrative.
Well, Idol Cardinal Jen, who...
Oh, God.
The was the blue. It's like, how could they stick this horse in and deprive the little Aussie battlers, Graham Begg and his owners, of a run Whereas had they just left it as it was, Cardinal Gem wouldn't have got a run anyway.
Yeah.
I just forgot about the rest of the market, but you can find it at readybet.com.au.
Download the app today. Gamble responsibly.
Yeah. I think Graham Beck, while I certainly appreciate his point, if what went on, what he actually thinks went on did go on, then he wouldn't have got a run anyway because the field would still been out there. But he's got a run now anyway because Brigantine crashed. So good luck.
Yeah. Look, maybe it was Graham that knocked off the Waller horse. You got the text. You're going to miss out, buddy.
I've got to get something out of it.
Yeah. Went down the local tavern. Did his best. Allegedly. Full credit. Let's roll through the top fives as we dribble about why we like what we like here, because this is a fascinating race. And before we do that, actually, Peter, do you want to talk about a speed map? Or
Yeah, I've got a speed map. Look, Into Congo, Overpass, they're the two drawn inside that will challenge for early position. But then you have Lavish Girl, Lady of Honor, Lightsaber, Military Expert, even Mr. Mozart. They're all drawn mid or wider. And just given the capacity field, you think there's at least genuine tempo there early. They probably just find their spots back in the field. The other one's drawn wide. Light infantry has typically settled worse in midfield or midfield at best, but from gate 7, I think he just lobs in a perfect spot. And Wellwell's probably going to be just behind him from gate 8. I Wish I Win probably just a little bit wider than both of those, trying to look for a 3 wide line with cover. Chain of Lightning on the fence midfield. So, look, I think the best chances are all sitting somewhere off the speed here. And look, light infantry is clearly the one for me. That Group 1 form just looks excellent.
I think we just need to say to the punters listening at home, Peter has downloaded or whatever he's done the international ratings and put on a clinic privately last week on Cox Plate weekend to Mark, myself, and the Mailbag guys. So get your pens out and listen. Go.
So the early price light infantry earlier in the week was around $4.60. We're now offering $3.50, $3.60 or so, Mark. I wouldn't be surprised if this horse jumps around 280, like high twos. And I know that sounds a little bit outrageous when I was saying it earlier in the week, but the horse has only continued to firm in. Look, if it runs to its peak international figure, it wins this race. It's pretty much that simple. He's a colt. The thing that I really like watching his replays is that he was a bit green the last probably 2-3 starts prior to his most recent run. His most recent run behind Inspiril was just far more professional. He wasn't carrying on in the middle of the run. He really took the bit and challenged her over the final stages of that race. We saw third come out and run really well, won a Group 2 the next start afterwards with a high rating event. Inspiril did fail the next start, but she was also pretty awful in the yard by reports, so there was an excuse there. I just think that this horse, it's a lovely looking type. I think everyone's probably seen it on all the little show and bits and pieces that they've done on social media for the horse. I can't wait to see what Rob thinks of it out of the yard. If it runs to its best, it wins. It's just as simple as that. You're looking at other horses like I Wish I Win needs to improve based on its top ranking or top rating. And, other horses that have gone to that level previously, we're looking at Hinge, Converge, they would need to run to their absolute best, but they're not looking like they're quite at that level at the moment. So
I think that's a good point to finish on. Like the race revolves around this bloke, and that's as much information as we can glean from what we get. And Peter's done the hard work for you, but you're completely mad not to buy Rob Scurry's Mounting Up Mail. It costs nothing. He wins, and he's going to give you a read on this horse that we're all trying sort of guessing on. Peter's got a much more advanced guess than Mark and I, but it's still a guess. There's so much to learn about this horse. How did he travel? How's he looking? What's a parade like with a big crowd in Sydney versus, nice peaceful European parade?
If those international figures are right, but he's about as good as Animo.
Yeah.
Is how I line it up.
And that's pretty much where it begins and finishes. So really it's a case of, do you want to back the horse at this price range? Do you want to wait for the mounting yard, or do you want to try and find something to beat him? In which case you're probably just better off staying out because it's a crapshoot other than him.
Or you know what I do? I'm just going to spec roughies, big prices, so I don't spend too much in case Rob calls it immoral. Let's roll through Peter's top 5 first, please, and we'll go through why you like each of them, please, mate.
Wrong prices again. Sorry.
That's okay. Look, light infantry clearly on top for me. Chain of Lightning does look suited, stepping up that little bit in distance, and it's a very consistent horse. in the Congo will be there on speed. Well does have claims, obviously, coming to Wallow. Frankie Dettori's on board. Ticks a few
You're with the
boxes, but
stewards.
I think it still needs to improve based
Fair
on what we've
enough.
seen
Then
so
full
far.
credit to them.
And look, I wish I win. You know, it wasn't necessarily suited versus the day last start, but does need to improve on what we've seen so far.
The next top 5 will be Mark Rhoden's.
Yes. Light infantry has a bit of Lise Grissier in the Cox Plate about it, in my opinion. I think the market might just, they've chipped away at it already. They might just on the day hang on, why isn't this thing $2.30? And just truckload it. That's my
Hinged, who scratched from the Empire Rose to run in this race, Mark Rhoden, number 2.
Yeah, probably wants it a bit wetter. I love the Epsom form. The pre-light infantry best horse in Australia, top ranked in that race, as you know. Our top ranked is unfortunately off the scene, and light infantry is the best horse in Australia. Hinged has that form. Didn't have much weight that day, but I expected to run. The barrier is against it. I did a map, and just because I liked her, I just stuck her in somewhere. You know.
So you've got basically you're going like the Spruky import, the Grouse Epsom form back 100 meters, and now the Grouse Everest form up 300 with Overfast.
That's the thing. I thought from the low draw they would let the speed go, like in the Congo, and try and get a trail and just try and cattle him to get the 1500. There's every chance he won't get it. There's no evidence to suggest he will, but it is a bloody strong form line. And he was up sitting a length off the lead in a dynamite fast Everest, and he didn't weaken that much in the last 100. I thought it was a very, very good run. They're only running him because it's worth $10 million, let's be honest. They wouldn't be running him over 1500 otherwise, but he might get a soft run behind the speed and sneak top 4.
Yeah. My top 5 is Chain of Lightning on top, just because I know it. I think this horse is really, really good. I'm petrified now listening to Peter talk about this import, who I've snuck in there for 4th. I think Pinstripe's a huge price. He's $34 or bigger. He's got an awful map, but he's got Mick D off. He's going to have a nice, steady tempo, stronger tempo here. If they're running on, this horse is a Group 1 horse. He's a good horse. I think that I wish I win Pinstripe form from the 2-rack where they run a huge number will stand up. But obviously it's very hard to gauge versus this import. And like Peter, I actually don't mind Weewah for Uncle Chris. Full credit to him for getting it in because it looks like I can run a race. But I wouldn't be surprised if the 2-rack form really stands up because it was a good day of racing and it was the biggest race on that day's racing. I think it's a really good form reference for 1500-metre race.
Peter, am I right in saying, I should know this myself, I wish I win was about $6 earlier in the week, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And it's out to 11 already.
I think there's probably just a few little queries there. Your first time at the track, even though it wasn't suited versus the day, I don't think the splits going through the line, it did seem to peak on its run. And I think that was already a small query, wasn't it? Just
which is why I like 1500.
Yeah. The 100 difference might help, but still, we'll be back there with some of these good horses. So we'll see who's got a better turn of foot. Look, I think at some point the horse will run into the straight and look like it's going to be running on. It's just whether or not it has the same tank load.
Cool. Yeah. It's a good race. Like full credit to PBL because he's actually a good race. We're talking about it. Let's finish with our best bets and value. Pistols with light infantry. Rob Scurry hasn't done a map yet. He's with Valana, who's going to be very, very wide. But Jesus was a big win last start, wasn't it? Rhoden, you are with
light infantry
as well. I'm with Mars Mission. Isn't that a moral? Pretty much, it is. It'll win. It'll win race 5, guys. Build your day around Mars Mission. I think it's flying. I think it would be suited on a good track. And our value bets, boys.
Yep, Eduardo for me, just on the chance he finds his best again.
Pinstripe for me, big fat price, good horse. His day will come. Hopefully it's on Saturday. Mark, you're with Hinged.
Small saver on Hinged against the good thing light infantry, just out of that very strong Epsom.
And Rob,
I asked Rob for his best and value, and he made it the same horse for Lana. You will notice a little pat myself on the back here. Got the prices right for this slide. They are the correct prices for the first time in about 6 slides. So thank you.
Well, we're back. We'll be back next week, guys, with correct prices. Anything else we should leave them with?
Just that Rob when asked for best end value, gave Valana the same horse as his best and his best value. He just operates that way.
Well, he's an each-way punter sometimes. Win and place.
Yeah, that's right.
Righto, guys. That's been ReadyBet. That's been Victims of the Punt, powered by ReadyBet.com.au. Download the app. Gamble responsibly. Bet Australian. Download the app. Gamble responsibly. Pistol. God bless you. Thank you. You're looking beautiful. Dizzy, back up well. Have a great week, guys. Bye for now.